Hello everyone, so it's time for another hop test the brew, and today I'm going to be looking at Superdelic. So shout out to Robbie from Yakima Chief Hops who hooked me up with this bag of Superdelic at BrewCon last year. These have only just been released in 2023, and this pack was so new in fact that it's still got the trial number on it, NZH102, rather than the actual name Superdelic, which it has now been released under. So I've got the data sheet here for Superdelic so we can get a little bit of insight into what we can be expecting with this hop. The descriptors are berry, fruit, citrus, candy or lolly flavour and tropical fruit. So this is a mid-range alpha hop. You're looking at about 9 to 10%. So it's got dual purpose capabilities. You could use it for bittering, but obviously we're most interested at this point in terms of the late addition potential for this and dry hop potential in terms of what flavours and aromas that can deliver. So let's open up the bag and see what we get on the nose with these hops. So as soon as I open that up, the aroma is absolutely punching out the bag there. Really, really aromatic hops here. There's definitely some kind of sweet tropical fruit notes in there. Quite a kind of dank aroma to it as well. So it has got a little bit of a weedy kind of dank smell to it straight out the packet. I think you do get a little bit of that kind of lime zest aroma, which is quite common with New Zealand hops. Very, very promising in terms of the smell of those straight out the bag. Now, for the recipe, I am going to be using a little bit more than 100 grams. I have previously always said that I'll just do 100 grams as the test recipe with these hop tester beers, but I've got some more Superdelic, which I got from Cross My Loof as well, and I want to just bump up the amount of hops in this one a little bit to, well, basically because I really want to see what these can do in the kind of quantities that I would typically use them. So I've gone a little bit higher on the hopping rate. We've got about 160 grams of Superdelic in total and just a small addition of Columbus for the bittering charge. Everything else is the same as my usual recipe, fermented with US-05, fairly simple grist. I'll put the recipe link in the description, and on the screen at the moment you'll see the rough outline of the recipe for this. So let's get on with brewing it, and a little bit further down the line, we'll be doing some tasting. So it seems that I forgot to do any of the brew footage for this beer, but never mind. It means we can cut straight to the chase with this one and get into the tasting. So this is the finished product. It came out at 4.6%. Looks pretty nice in the glass. Still got a little bit of a haze on it, which tends to often be the case with these beers when I make them with US-05. But yeah, let's get into this and see what we're getting from this hop in terms of the aromas and flavours on it. I have sent some of it out to the Hop Edition crew, and I'll include a little bit of footage of the tasting notes from those guys, and then I'll generate some graphs as well for the flavour and aroma profiles based off of the information that they provide on the little questionnaire that I've done for this beer. So let's see what we've got. Now, aroma-wise, I wouldn't say that it's massively pungent out the glass. The hop pellets in the hand were definitely a lot more potent kind of aroma-wise than I think what we're getting on this beer, especially bearing in mind that I did up the hopping rate on this one for the dry hop and whirlpool to what I normally do. That said, I guess the one main thing I would pick out on this is, yeah, there's definitely kind of berry notes in there, and it's a sweet kind of candy-like aroma. So it reminds me of the smell of kind of like, there's a little bit of a like Haribo sweets kind of aroma to this, which is quite an odd thing to pick out on a beer. But as far as the fruit character, it's that, yeah, kind of sweet sort of berry, maybe strawberry, a little bit of a tropical note to it. Not so much the citrus still, I don't think. There's not really any kind of like herbal aroma to it or spicy aroma. Just a fairly gentle kind of sweet, yeah, just smells a bit like berry berry flavoured kind of sweeties to me. So perfectly pleasant, not massively blow your head off kind of aromatic. I certainly wouldn't put it up there with, you know, some of the more stinky kind of New Zealand hops like your Nelson and Rawaka, for example. But quite inviting nonetheless. So let's dive in for the taste test. So again, for me on the flavour, it's not really kind of kicking out a huge amount of flavour. I wouldn't say potency-wise it's right up there. But I think maybe that's in part due to the nature of the flavours that are coming off of it. And it is quite, again, soft, kind of sweet berry. And they use this descriptor on the data sheet specifically, which was kind of like candy, lolly type flavour. And it may be me being led by that, but there really is like a specific kind of like, yeah, red kind of boiled sweet sort of lolly type flavour. You know, the little lollies that they used to put in like the sherbet dip dab or whatever it was called. It's that kind of like strawberry, hard candy kind of flavour to me that's there. Maybe a little bit like a strawberry lace type flavour as well. I think there's a little bit more of a citrus note there on the flavour. I didn't really get citrus from the aroma personally at all, but flavour wise there's a little bit more of a tangy kind of citrus note in there. It's nice. It's a nice hop, and it's made a really nice beer here. It's not, I'm a little bit slightly underwhelmed as far as the potency of it, so I was expecting it to be a little bit more punchy, again especially bearing in mind that I did up the hopping rate on this, so I wouldn't say this is up there with in terms of the actual impact of the hop with your Mosaics and your Nelson Sauvins and those other, you know, really punchy kind of hops, but the flavour and aroma profile on it is pretty unique, so it's definitely bringing something quite new and interesting to the party. Not really, I got this when off of the hops out of the packet. I'm not getting the kind of classic New Zealand lime note off of it. The more I drink it, the more I think there is a little bit of a slightly pithy kind of citrus flavour in there, but it's mostly this soft berry. Maybe there's a little bit of a hint of watermelon in there as well, so that kind of like, again, watermelon sort of like sweet flavour. It drinks well. It's quite nice. I think I'd be interested to see what the other guys think of this, because it may be that they pick out different kind of flavours or descriptors from this, or maybe don't pick out some of those particular characteristics at all. We'll find out shortly. I want to see what it does when it's combined with other hops. On the description in the data sheet, it does talk a lot about combining it with other hops, but still very enjoyable. And some interesting flavours coming off of it. So let's cut to the hop edition, see what those guys think, and then we'll come back with some data based off of my scores for this beer and the scores from those guys as well. So, yeah.
I know what that's right. I think.
Well, we'll see. We'll see, Andy.
Am I the only one who's getting like no aroma at all?
I'm getting loads.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot.
I'm getting none.
Is your nose all right?
Probably
You've
not.
got COVID, have you?
Check it. This is banging. Oh, wow. Yes. Oh, I love this. Oh, I don't know this.
It's familiar. I'm getting a bit of a sort of diesely thing. Anyone else getting that?
Interesting.
See, this is. See, I thought I knew what it was. I thought I knew what it was at the first, and then it just changes.
I think it helps to give it a swirl.
I think you get a little bit more kind of like a sweetness off the aroma when you whirl it up a bit.
Like pure peach. Mega peach.
What beer?
You like that one then, Andy?
Oh, yeah. Great.
I wouldn't mind having that on tap.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Super refreshing.
So what do we think as far as like flavour descriptors and what you put down for descriptions of what the aroma and flavour notes were off of it? Or what do you think is the most prominent, if anything? I think it's a bit of a confusing one.
I got
stone
peach,
fruit.
I got berry.
Yeah.
a little bit of berry, not massive amounts.
Berry was quite prominent for me.
Honestly,
Do you get
muted, sweet, and peachy is pretty much all I got. It was fairly well muted when I.
Do you not get any of that sort of? It's almost like a kind of Nelson type character.
a hint of that dryness that you get, that almost Sauvignon dryness. I did get some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Your poker face is terrible, Tricky. I need to play you at poker because I will take your money. Man.
It definitely feels like a kind of.
I think it's Australian, not New Zealand.
I think New Zealand. Well, yeah.
It's got a bit of that.
I don't think it's got onion or garlic.
I weren't getting any of that.
Nah.
Am I getting that?
Tiny bit floral. A little bit
floral.
citrus.
I got like on the aroma, I got some of those like earthy notes, grassy notes, just a smidge of them right at the beginning.
So I had
see that.
I had a thing when I was doing the bit of video before where the aroma, I was thinking like it's got a kind of like sweety packet smell to it.
Almost sherbety.
Yeah, a little
And
bit.
Citra
kind of.
can do that, can't it? Or it's like a Citra Mosaic type of combo that can bring that.
It was like a whiff of
sherbety
sort of
thing.
sherbety and then maybe like a Haribo kind of. Do you know what I mean? Almost like the fizzy Haribo sweets.
Every time I go in, I'm just like that. It's like what I'd normally get from a kind of a New Zealand type.
There's not enough lime in it for it to be a Kiwi hop.
Is that what you'd be going with then, Andy? You'd be calling it New Zealand hop?
I think so. It's got that. You know how when we did the hop tester and I was like, oh, it's Hallertau Blanc type thing.
Yeah.
And it was that Nelson-y thing I was getting with the grape. But it's not though, because it's slightly. That's what I was thinking. Is this the Superdelic type blend? Was my guess when I first.
Superdelic isn't a blend.
Oh, Superdelic isn't a blend. Okay, well I would say it's Superdelic then.
That's what I was going to guess it was as well.
Yeah, I thought that was a blend. That's why I was
What
like,
are you
it's
saying,
not.
Chris?
I reckon it's Hallertau Middle Through.
He's coming out of left field with that one. So, Owen, you're agreeing? You reckon it's Superdelic?
I think it's
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, for the first time in the history of the hop test, you fucking nailed the hop.
Yes.
Bang on, both of you. So,
Got it.
sorry, Chris, it wasn't Hallertau.
Damn it.
But yeah,
It wasn't.
It is, it is Superdelic. So,
Good.
yeah.
How good is this
Bang on.
hop?
You were straight on it with the New Zealand thing as well, to be fair. And yeah.
I got no lime off that at all. I got a
on the nose.
touch of
I don't
citrus. Didn't get any of it.
I didn't really think it's particularly citrusy or limey either, to be honest.
Stone fruit.
The little bit of diesel-y thing and the I think what you said about that slight dry kind of grapey note on it gives you the idea of it maybe having New Zealand heritage as opposed to the lime flavour. So yeah, according to the descriptors, they say it's got flavours of ripe mango. I don't really get any mango from it at all.
No. Sweet
Berry and citrus notes. So I'm definitely on the sweet berry thing. They don't mention stone fruit or peach, although I think quite a lot of you were kind of mentioning that as well.
Mango and peach aren't that dissimilar.
Yeah, that's
got
true.
that.
That's true.
It's like a mosaic thing, isn't it?
I think those could be easily mistaken.
Definitely. I mean,
It's
clearly.
just that sort of fleshy.
Mosaic
Yeah.
mango.
Fleshy, ripe, soft fruit. Yeah.
And they do use candy or kind of lolly flavour as one of the specific descriptors for
Sherbety.
it. Which
Yeah, but yeah.
the more I drink, and I think I was kind of like led by that because I knew that was in the description beforehand. But I think the more you drink it, the more you do kind of like get that slight sweet. And funny you should mention sherbet. I think on the video bit I did, I said it reminded me of literally the little lollipops you got in the sherbet dips. Yeah.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
that kind of flavour.
I'd really like to see how they present in like a bigger quantity.
Yeah, I want to also try and pair it up with something else as well because I feel like there's some really interesting flavours in there, but maybe like something else layered with it could just really make it quite special.
You get 5 kilos of anything, Chicky?
Yeah, yeah. But it does say it
Fair bit
pairs
of
well
Citra
with-
left. Yeah, not 5 kilos, but
Pairs
Citra
well
and
with
Superdelic
Citra,
might be the next one.
Simcoe, Nelson, Motorworker,
Yeah.
and Ruaka.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what would you put it in? No, New Zealand Pilsner maybe, hazy beers,
Hazy beers.
Nick-
anything
Because-
else?
Nipis, 100%, because it's given a
Yeah.
high note.
Yeah, and it's very sweet fruit flavored as well, as opposed to like maybe piney or heavily citrus.
It also says here it has great biotransformation properties when dry hopping during active fermentation.
Just
I
like
love that beer, Tricky. That was an absolute banger.
Oh, glad
I
you
wonder if
enjoyed
that's
it.
where the peach is coming from, the USO5.
Maybe.
Could be.
Because that always brings a nice peach.
So there we have it, some interesting and largely positive feedback there from the guys over at the Hop Edition for this beer. And I think it has put it in perspective for me a little bit, getting the feedback from those guys and seeing how excited they were about some of the flavours off of this hop. I think maybe when I did the previous testing, I was a little bit maybe down on it because I don't know, the name Superdelic and all the kind of marketing blurb that goes with it was maybe leading me to expect something a little bit more like explosive in terms of the flavour. And I still stand by the fact that it's not really massively potent in terms of the kind of aroma and the flavour that you get with this hop. It's not as punchy as a Nelson or a Mosaic or even some of the other fairly brash kind of American sea hops, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the flavors that are coming off of this hop are really quite a bit different and really nice and tasty as well. So yeah, I think that is reflected in the scores as well, which we'll look at in a minute. For the potency, I think we all kind of averaged out around about between 6 and 7 for those, but the overall enjoyment of the hop was quite a high score. So let's have a look at some of that data that we gathered through the survey that I got the guys to fill in. I've added a section on my questionnaire now for 3 words that you would use to describe the hop flavour and aroma overall, so we can get a range of kind of descriptive terminology. And on that, we had candy come up 3 times, so that was quite a popular one. Berry came up 3 times as well. I think we had tropical a couple of times. Peachy came up a couple of times. So yeah, those were the main ones that came up. Everything else was one-off, but obviously there was only 5 of us doing the questionnaire at this point, so not a huge sample set, but we did see some common themes there. Let's look at the graphs that were generated. So I've overlaid the flavour and aroma on the radar graph now, as you can see. So you've got flavour in green and aroma with the purple. And for this hop, they were amazingly close together. So often you'll see, some variation on some of the descriptors for flavour and aroma being a bit different, but these seem to follow almost exactly the same pattern once the scores are all added up and averaged out. Minimal scoring, to the point of 0 in most cases for spicy, garlic, onion, and herbal. Slightly more for earthy and grassy. I think a couple of people did mention a slight hint of earthiness or grassiness during the tasting. Floral was probably the next highest scoring after that. Pine, also fairly low. Then floral, a little bit higher. And then citrus was still relatively low score, so that averaged out at 4. And tropical, stone fruit, and berry were then pretty close together in terms of the scores for both aroma and flavour. So not too far off what I was expecting for this. As I was saying before, I don't think there's one particular flavour that really sort of smacks you in the face as the main flavour component there, but there are lots of really nice, interesting, and slightly different flavours that you get off of this, like your kind of candy and berry flavours and more sweet kind of tropical notes in there, with a little bit of that kind of New Zealand hop character in the background as well. So if we look at the scores for aroma and flavour intensity, aroma averaged out at a 6, which is about where I would have put it. Flavour slightly higher, which again I would agree with, at 6.4. The overall enjoyment for it was a 7.6, so a very healthy score there for overall enjoyment of the hop. And off the basis of that, definitely one that I would recommend that you go and give a try. So plenty of options with this. Obviously, you know, IPAs, pale ales are the obvious ones. I think trying it out in combination with some of the hops that I've already mentioned, like Nelson, you know, Citra, which combines with everything pretty much, would be good to try it with that. And yeah, you know, Nipas and Hazies are the obvious candidates there, but I think you could probably play around with this maybe in smaller quantities in more subtle beers like golden ales, or perhaps even lagers, blonde ales, that sort of thing. Might be quite interesting in a wheat beer with those kind of sweeter sort of berry notes in there perhaps. Also, I think it might be a good candidate for kind of fruited or even potentially sort of well hopped kind of sour fruited beers, because I think there's quite a few flavours in there that could potentially work quite well in that sort of beer. So let me know if you've used Superdelic in the comments. What are your thoughts on this hop? And yeah, how have you got on with it? Are you planning on using anything in particular? Tell us all about it. On your way to the comments, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.